think that it's really hard to fight a battle like that publicly, and on social media, everything is public. As Sandy said, it's not like the good old days where you caught an editor and you asked for a retraction, where you could explain the other side offline. There's no offline anymore. But I think because there's so many people who are online sharing what they think, very often negative, that we've all become a little immune to it. We're a little desensitized to that. We understand that some person who chooses to be anonymous, who makes a negative comment, may not be the most credible source of information. The Maryland Science Center has somebody who responds regularly to comments on their Facebook page, fairly regularly negative. He's complained about vacuuming in the lobby during an IMAX theater presentation. He complained about a ticket agent. He complained about handicapped access. We don't think he's handicapped, but he wanted to complain about it. And the Science Center has chosen not to take him on because he's made it very clear to anybody who's on their page that's who he is. That's the kind of guy he is.
Spends a lot of time at the Science Center.
So we just let him go, because it's pretty clear that's who he is.
And you're not going to, it reminds me, I don't know why I'm adding this, but it reminds me, my husband was the chairman of the board of the Pratt for a number of years. There was a guy on the Friends of the Pratt who was unhappy all the time. So he called our house, I'm not exaggerating, every day for the 4 or 5 years that Bob was the chairman of the Pratt. At the same time, I answered the phone, Bob would never answer it, I took the message. He was able to vent, at least to me, or to our voicemail, but now if he were, you know, it'd be interesting to see if he's online. He's probably online all the time, just complaining about, I don't like the third window in the library on Maryland Avenue, you know, whatever he's complaining about. So they, you know, for unhappy people, it's just a wonderful world. I'm serious, you just have to figure out how to manage it. I don't even know if I should tell this. John and I, I represent the World Series of Poker. And I had John, as a company, actually help us 2 years ago with WSOP. Amongst it, we do all the PR for World Series of Poker, but aside from, in addition to that, we also do all the credentialing for the media. So I don't have to tell you how much media around the world wants to come to the World Series of Poker, right? I mean, it's in the thousands. I mean, everybody thinks they should be there from every country of the world. And we only have a limited number of spaces. I think it's 600. So the person who was doing this, you know, we vet every single person. It's a big process. She denied access, she denied credentials to somebody, and the next thing you know, I mean, they were slamming us on the internet. And I didn't even know about it, actually. Somebody called somebody and said, oh my God, can you believe what they're saying about Emily and Sandy? And it was, they were angry about this. Well, they didn't tell anybody we're angry because we weren't credentialed and we're not really a reliable media source. They just sort of went off. So, you know, you gotta, yeah, exactly. And there's that new.
So we have no answer for you.
Well, there's a new online body, which is, well, I forget what it's called, that is only going to be about negative stuff. What's it called?
Well, I mean, yeah, and there's also TMZ, you know, the world's lowest form of journalism, and is now starting a sports-only website after the Tiger Woods thing, and you know, danger athletes, you know, beware.
I think the bigger issue to me and to everybody, and I'm just repeating what everybody says, is younger people who don't look at other sources for information, who only use the web, are going to be so ill-informed. And that's really a big issue. If you look at what, I don't know if you all know about the issue in Texas with they're redoing the history books. Well, I mean, that's a reliable group of, you know, that's a credible group of people who are rewriting history as they want it written. They're then going to be online. People are going to read about it online. The next thing you know, people are going to think Jefferson Davis was the president of the United States during the Civil War. I'm not kidding.
Well, Wikipedia is a good example. That
exactly.
Anyone can go to any wiki site and make any changes you want. It's crazy.
And say whatever. I mean, Dottie got all upset because they were putting something about me on Wikipedia, and she said, I cannot find that quote from Time magazine about you. I'm not, and because she was, you know, she's used to reliable sources.
When I interview interns or people for jobs, one of the first things I ask is, where do you get your news? And Perez Hilton is not a credible source.
But I have to have people
ask.
working for me who read that stuff, because I don't, and so, you know.
Yeah, I just want to, throw in some old man answer in there somewhere.
Right. James Reston, no, he died, but that's okay. Right.
Several years ago, I said something in a quote in a Michael Lester column to show you how long, several years ago this thing was. That particularly, it was innocent, but ignited a group of crazies out there. And I was getting these emails, and it got to the point where I said to the precinct captain, watch my house. It was really, really crazy. It went away. But about once every year, it flares up again. Somebody finds it, and it starts all over again for a short period of time. Do you find that when things that you thought you put to sleep 7 years ago keep coming back and back and back?
Google, man.
Yeah.
Right, well, because, that's the other thing, it all is archived. So whether it's true, false, or in between, it's still there forever. And it's an issue.
If you Google hemorrhage PR, one of the first things that comes up is an article that was in the Examiner, the print edition, excuse me, of the Examiner when it started, and every Monday they used to profile a different firm. And the headline of the article was, "Hemorrhage keeps it simple." That is not what I would want people to pull up as the first thing. The Examiner hasn't been published in 2 years, 3 years. It was a throwaway line in an interview, first thing that comes up in Google. It doesn't die.
Yeah. Now the good news about that sort of thing is yesterday we put out a simple release on a local Ford dealership that won this Ford President's Award. This is not national news, okay? But it's nice. It's a big deal for them, and it should be, and they're proud of it. Well, the owner, Bruce Schindler, owns Bob Davidson Ford, got an email from Ford Corporate because they just Googled Ford.
Right.
And his release popped up. Not because we're so great at getting things at the top of the Google list, that's dumb luck, but Bruce emails us and said, "This is unbelievable. The guys at Ford in Detroit found my release. You guys are the greatest." Remember that, Bruce. Anyway, it goes both ways, I guess.
I noticed in this morning's Sun, Justin Fenton, who covers police, has not only, some of the Sun reporters will put an email address on there at the end of the story, some do not. Liz Kay does not. Justin had his email address and then his Twitter address as well down at the end of the story. How broad a reach do you have, how broad a net do you have to cast to make sure you get these reporters everywhere they are, if I'm making sense? That you find them on Twitter, you find them on email, you find them here and there. How do you watch them?
I think just like that, it is essential.
Right. Speaking
of the Twitter and the newspaper reporters, so I'm going to take you off in a different direction for a second, have you guys noticed that there's some news gathering agencies now, I think it was Reuters recently said, that they will not allow the reporters to break news on Twitter, only on their website. That's nuts, I think. And it'll last about a couple of weeks because they're going to get burned. And look, you could still say, for more details, go to Reuters.com or whatever. But look, that's living. I think that's old school editors living in denial. That's if you're in the courtroom and something just happens, or you're at a press conference and something just happens, and you can break it, or you get a good source talking to you, and you want to tweet it real quick for more information. It's still on the @Reuters tweet or Twitter site or whatever the hell it's called. And I just think we're in this whole new world now, because first they want to, not that long ago, in fact, I'm sorry, quick story, back in 2001, Cal decided he was going to retire. He was talking to a reporter with the Washington Post, and he told him that he was going to announce this tomorrow. Well, the reporter from the Post loses marbles because he knows he's stumbled on a really big story. Calls his editors, he writes the stories. Now, at the time, it's 2001, websites are prominent, but it's not where news is being broken every minute. He calls us up at 10 o'clock and he goes, "Look, they're going to put it on the web." And I just said, "Dave, you do what you want, but that's stupid. You're going to scoop yourself, because tomorrow morning people are going to pick back when there were papers. People are going to pick up papers, and they're not going to know that you broke it. The Sun's going to have the same headline, and all your companies, the Washington Times, going to have the same headline." And sure enough, that's what happened. But now it's gone from, we want to save it for the paper, now we want to save it for the website, very soon, I got to imagine it's going to say like, hey, let's tweet it and just beat everybody's butt early. But you're seeing there's still some struggle there.
And Justin Fenton's a great example of that. I mean, he is always on Twitter, wherever he shows up, every crime scene he shows up, he puts it there. I recognize that. I mean, I follow 300 people on Twitter. I mean, I read a lot of stuff that I don't even know about. But when I see his icon, I read it because I know that it is, he's either breaking something or it's something different. I mean, you know, crime in the city is interesting. I always pay attention to it. And thus I pay attention to him, and thus I pay attention to the Sun.
When the mayor got indicted, Stefan, sitting over there with the camera, he came in my office and told me, I said, how do you know that? He goes, oh, the Sun tweeted it.
Right.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also on